All right, welcome back, everyone. So let's go to so Linda's here. Let's go to item 14 around the CCHL draft letter of expectations, please. So do you want to introduce it? I think I'm happy to move it, and the mayor's happy to second it.
I would like to introduce this paper by just giving a little bit of background as to how we arrived at the content. The intent of the expectations are for the council to be able to influence the direction of CCOs as provided for in the LGA. The expectations as they are in the letter would be considered by the board. It executes its obligations under the Companies Act to act in the best interests of the company or the group, and takes into account the expectations and how and whether it is in the best interests of the company to move those forward. The expectations are underpinned by Section 59 of the LGA, which sets out the principal objective of CCOs, and by acknowledging that the directors have duties under the Companies Act that I've just mentioned. It's the key content that we have that is new this year is relating to local government reforms and value for money. General content has been on subjects that we've had in previous years, including living wage, restraint on senior executive and director remuneration, or exercising restraint, I should say, climate change, mana whenua, and buy local where viable. That's my help.
Thank you. Now we'll go to questions, and then we can, yep. Does anyone have any questions? Yanni.
So one of the concerns I've had over the past year, looking at our previous or current letter of expectation, is that things that we had in there weren't actually being done. And when things weren't being done, or things were being done contrary to it, our request, I'd like to know what our recourse is and what we can put into the LOE to expect, how we would expect CCHL to take action when things are not being done in accordance with what we've asked, or things are being done contrary to what we've asked.
So the issue here is that we don't have power of direction, and so we are in a situation where our expectations are made clear with allowing them the right to determine whether they act on them, and if they do, how they arrange that operationally. Our expectation as staff is that CCHL in this case would advise us if it wasn't going to act on any of the expectations and why. As I haven't received any notice of that, of them not intending to take the expectations forward, and I'm not aware of them acting contrary to the expectations either.
So if we looked at what happened over the last year around the breakdown in industrial relations at LBC, directly contrary to what we'd put in the letter of expectation around having good industrial relations, working cooperatively with unions, etc., how do we stop that from happening going forward? Because we were pretty explicit in our LOE, and it was pretty explicit what happened contrary to what our expectations were.
Bede, have you?
We were just talking about that here. I mean, I guess the mechanism for council is obviously you've got your letter of expectation, but we also have the ability to appoint directors to CCHL. That's our shareholding responsibility. Yeah.
So Effectively, where a company breaches its statement of intent, doesn't act in accordance with our letter of expectation, the process is that we as a city council, not CCHL, would look to remove directors.
No,
CCHL
sorry.
would.
So just if we go back to the point of why we're here, this is a letter of expectation to Christchurch City Holdings, who is the buffer between us and the operating companies. We appoint directors, we appoint them to all of them, but we appoint primarily to act on our behalf the directors to Christchurch City Holdings.
So the question then was, given that this is our expectation to CCHL, what can we put in to get a greater degree of proactivity when things are being done contrary to what our expectations are?
You said productivity.
What can be done proactively to address issues as they arise that are contrary to what our expectations are?
We appoint directors to the board. We've got a council director on there who's literally,
Okay, so it's basically up to us to replace CCHL directors if we don't feel that the company is monitoring the expectations sufficiently. Is that?
Well, we're the shareholder on behalf of the city. Yeah, where they come in on a quarterly basis and talk to us. The board are very open and transparent and talk to us.
So do we, just a few other questions. I've put forward some questions on Monday around some additional information around what we could do to strengthen some of the aspects in the letter of expectation. I just kind of wanted to check where that had got to. Is there going to be further information coming back or further resolutions?
Bede might have something here, Linda.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so we did discuss those, and we, with the compression of time, Councillor Hanson hadn't been able to get all of the advice back to you. But what we thought was that you've asked for a strengthening around industrial relations and health and safety, around working together for better value for money. The executive remuneration, I think that's going to be the subject of a further amendment, and also around the community wellbeing. Largely, we'd say those have been addressed through the existing letter, but they could be strengthened by including some of what was in last year's LOE and putting it into this year's LOE, and that could be accomplished that way.
Sure. So understanding that's the mechanism to do that, I'm just wondering if there needs to be some noting provision that is what's going to happen in terms of the resolutions that we've got in front of us.
Well, if you've got amendments, we're going to work through them in a minute because there's a couple others as well.
Okay.
So
come back to that.
Yep. Could just come up with your amendment and we'll go from there. I think so. Jake's got a question.
Yeah, but I've just realised that. Maybe quite a stupid one. No.
By all means, you go. The floor is yours.
As you think about it. I'm just wondering, perhaps if staff could highlight, I think the consensus I've picked up is that the wording that we had in LOE last year was good and robust. Perhaps it wasn't carried through in the SOIs as thoroughly as what some would have liked. Do you want to detail what the process is for comparing those two documents and critiquing them?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Look, I think it would be the same sentiment as there in regards to industrial relations and health and safety and being a good employer. I think what we would do is, if that's the request of the committee, is take those elements and add them to the existing LOE for this year, so that it's quite express around the obligations of being a good employer, fostering those strong industrial working relationships, and probably recommend adding noting the importance of section 59 of the Local Government Act and the principal objectives of the CCI, and that could be done under a delegation to the chair and deputy chair of the committee to ensure those provisions are added in.
Cool.
Are you talking more about the reconciliation between
the two documents? Yeah.
I could comment on that. When the draft SOIs come in due 1 March, I report them up to you, and I do reconcile all of the expectations from the LOE and whether they've been recorded in the SOI, and if there's material differences, I would alert you to that.
Cool. All right.
Cool. Okay. Is it an amendment, Yanni, or a question? That'll be a question.
It's a question. We've previously asked CCHL to report on the changes to the lowest paid versus the highest paid. Do we know when we're likely to get that information?
You have had it once, haven't you? I think it's annually, and I think it's just after the annual report. I'd have to check back on that. I can't quite remember the timing, but I think it's after the annual report.
Just come back on that.
Okay.
Okay, now we're at Nathaniel.
So I would like to move an amendment. I think staff have the wording, and I think it's gone through legal and gotten some lukewarm approval, which is glowing in my view. So this is it here. Yeah. So I'll just read it aloud, shall I? The government has signalled legislation to cap rates increases. While the legislation, it's here as well. While the legislation takes effect, they have called on local authorities to exercise restraint in non-essential spending. The council hopes to work with the government in good faith to ensure that a rates cap does not compromise our ability to maintain essential infrastructure. To demonstrate our commitment to fiscal responsibility, it is important that council, including its CCOs, reduce costs wherever possible. To align with the strategic objective, the council asks CCHL to work with its subsidiaries to investigate the possibility of a $0 increase for all board and executive remuneration for the FY 26-27 year. And thank you. And legal pointed out that there could be existing contracts that would be breached by a $0 pay increase. Reasonable concern. So this last in green, you can see council is mindful of the need for CCHL and its subsidiaries to act as a good employer and meet employment law obligations, which include existing contractual obligations. So I'm putting forward an amendment that these two paragraphs replace the remuneration section in the letter of expectation. Is it me or you that asked for a seconder? It's me.
Don't worry, it won't be me.
Yeah.
Tyrone's happy to,
All right.
Tyrone's happy to second.
Fantastic. I know I will now speak to the amendment.
Not yet, but we'll come back.
We'll come back?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, so that's amendment 1 on the table. Who else has got amendments? Because I'd much rather put them all up and then we can work through them as a... Great. Jake?
It's largely putting back the wording that we worked on last year and was unanimously agreed. So I just wanted to make sure that there was no dilution of the LOE last year. There's a bit that's been struck out which can't be considered today just because it's too... there has to be consideration with the Port Act and other bits of law, so it's appropriate that we would deal with that at a later opportunity, which I'm comfortable with.
Do you want it? So, okay.
So this is wording that is basically
Yeah, no,
identical.
I'm just reading it. Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. Yeah, I'll second it. Yeah. That's right. That's fine. So it doesn't change anything? No, that's fine. Okay. Well, why don't we just include that in the substantive, Phil? Makes it easier to having to vote on it separately. If people are happy with that, speeds it up. Because it doesn't change, like... Yeah, yeah. Cool. Yeah, just chuck it into the substantive. Okay. Any other amendments? Yanni?
All right, so I mean, I asked for advice. I haven't had the advice. I'm told that those things that I've asked for.
What's the amendment?
Will we-
Just
will we-
slow down. Can you just slow down? So rather than ranting, what is the amendment?
Oh, so well, I just wanted to ask a process question
Right.
because, like, I asked for advice on a number of things and the advice back was that we should delegate that to be addressed. So I didn't need to move amendments, but now I'm seeing amendments that are directly related to the things that I've asked for advice on that I haven't got. So I'm happy to
you won't
support
be putting the
these,
amendments.
but I'm just trying to understand in terms of what I need to put in terms of an amendment to delegate on the things that I've raised that we're going to get further advice on, which was community wellbeing, senior executive remuneration, shared services, and industrial relations.
So haven't we covered? So is there something missing from the LOI? LOE? Yeah.
So there was, there is stuff that's not as explicit as I'd like. So you want me to move the amendments now without the advice?
Well,
Okay.
What we'll do is we'll
Cool.
get the amendments so we can then consider the amendments like we do all amendments. So have you got? Have you got some?
Okay, so an amendment is that council notes with concern the decline in industrial relations at LBC, despite the previous LOE, and requests CCHL to take proactive steps to address this. That's the first amendment.
Okay, so just have you can email them to David.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
So what we'll do is we'll get. Yeah, so go through them all, then email them through. Then we'll take a break, and the team can pull them together, and then we'll go back through them. So what's the next one, Yanni?
The next one
And
is
can it not say notes with concern? It's a start.
that council set an expectation that CCHL will develop a shared services strategy across the group with council to promote efficiency of resources and more cost-effective solutions where feasible.
Bruce Rendell has responded to that by email.
Yeah.
He did around the strategic property thing, and I understand that. But I do recall that we passed previous resolutions to look at getting greater synergy between the services.
So have you got any more amendments?
Yeah. And then there was one around just being a little bit more explicit about the expectation that CCHL will continue to work across the group and with council for opportunities to support community wellbeing by using the collective strength of council companies to promote and develop pathways to improve economic prosperity for lower socioeconomic communities. Now, I did talk with Bede in the break, and my understanding as staff, again, we're going to give some advice around
I think you did get the
what
advice that you
additions
gave to me, yeah.
could be in. So it was going to be delegated to be incorporated, hence why I asked the process question.
Correct me if I'm wrong, didn't you just say it was section 53A?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, I think Section 59 sets out the principal objectives. Section 59 of the Local Government Act, it sets out the objectives of the CCO, and that includes being mindful of the strategic direction and the objectives of its parent and so on. So that's largely covered in that area by that provision.
Cool. Okay. Any more, Yanni?
So, and I think this is kind of a little bit probably inconsistent with Nathaniel's, but I think it could be added to it. And that was a stronger reference to the lack of senior executive remuneration restraint and request more tangible steps towards reducing the gap between the lowest paid and the highest paid and reducing senior executive remuneration.
Okay, so that's all yours?
Yeah.
Cool. So what we'll do is, can you email them to David? We'll have to take a break and get the amendments worked through, and we'll come back when the team are ready. Okay, so let's go through this. So, are we good to go? We're missing. So we'll slide right down, and no, what we'll do is, do you want to just talk through? So the amendments are there, so we'll go through them to start with. David? Do you want to just talk us through how you want to do it? I think we'll vote on them first, and then just close out the substantive. We have added one in, just a final delegation for Jake and I, just to sort of have that final sign off with Bede. So
if first of all we vote on this amendment, and then based on that, if that's approved, that gets incorporated into the substantive. If not, then it doesn't, and then we move on to the substantive, which includes Jake's amendment. Has a small change where the finalisation of the letter of expectation, the wording, the tweaking of it is, rather than being Bede as finance manager, it is to be tweaked and finalised by Jake as deputy chair and Sam as chair. And then I think Yanni's one is all incorporated, is listed as well, so that can be voted on separately as well.
do you want to scroll through them? Can you see? What can we? Yeah. Yeah. So the first bit's the normal bit, so that's all good. But it's the second bit. It's the amendments that we'll just go through line by line. Cool. So we'll just catch up. We're going to do the amendments first, so we work through them, and then we'll vote on the substantive. But we can have a debate. Anyone who wants to debate it can debate it now. So Jake's bits in the substantive. Yep. And there's Nathaniel's and Yanni's. Yeah. Yanni's got a couple after that as well. So yeah. Okay.
So I'd just like to speak to my...
Oh, yeah, hang on.
amendment.
Wait.
Yeah.
There.
Sorry.
Councillor Johansson's one is essentially wrapped up in section 59 of the Local Government Act, because that covers off most of the issues that he raised, or they have been covered by Councillor.
Oh, so sorry. So just to be clear, we're only voting on Nathaniel's and then this. Okay, it's easy. All right.
The remuneration restraint and the reduction.
That's Nathaniel's one. That's
And it's already in the letters.
No, it's not. Yeah, closing the gap between the lowest and the highest paid.
that is not in there at present. No.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll go. Tyler's got a question. Tyler?
Yeah, it was just in regards to Councillor Johansson's amendment around the reduction. Yanni, are you referring to reducing executive pay?
Correct.
Is that even in order due to the employment law? Can we even reduce executive pay?
Can we? So I'm getting lost. So can we go? Yeah.
Can be done. Yeah.
But that's not. We haven't got that as an amendment now. No. So just that's why I'm getting confused, Tyler. So just to be really clear, the only amendments we're voting on are Nathaniel's.
Yes.
So I don't know if you can see them on the screen, man. It's one.
And you've layered Jake's one in. Yep.
1D and E.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we just vote on Nathaniel's one.
Citizens issues as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so let's have it. Kelly.
Can I ask a question of Nathaniel?
Yeah. On the amendment, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it's a question, not a debate.
No, of course. Yeah, just in terms of the last paragraph, Council is mindful of the need for CCHL and its subsidiaries to act as a good employer and meet employment law obligations. Is that a bit redundant in terms of, doesn't that already exist under the current arrangement?
So it was the advice from legal to include that, just to make it really clear that, so it could be, for example, that an executive has a contract that allows for a scheduled pay increase. There's some existing legal contractual obligation, and I just wanted to make it really clear that I wasn't asking for contractual obligations to be unilaterally breached. Yeah, that's kind of what it was about. And they said it could expose those companies to grievance claims and that sort of thing. So it's just about making sure that it's yeah.
So let's get into some discussion. Nathaniel?
Right, so I'll just speak to my amendment. So, yeah. So, I mean, overall, as I said before, this is really about making sure that when we're going to the government and talking about a rates cap and arguing that we are a responsible council and that we're trying to reduce costs, just making sure that CCHL, the holdings company we own, has strategic alignment with council in that conversation. And our approach with CCHL has always been that CCHL pursues the strategic objectives of the council. That's really why we own CCHL. It's not just about the dividends. It's about the strategic objectives of the city. I mean, this, right now, for example, we want CCHL to align their submissions on local government reform with council submissions. So that's one example. Another is the cruise ship terminal at Littleton Port, was where it was about the strategic direction of the city and not just about the profit of Littleton Port itself. And going way back to the 90s, you can look at Orion and how we urged Orion to look into seismic strengthening of their electricity lines to align with our goals as a city, not just the balance sheet of that individual company. So there's a lot of precedent for it. It's really how we run CCHL. And there is also precedent for these types of pauses on pay. In 2020, during the COVID pandemic, Enable, one of our companies, actually implemented a pay freeze where the directors working with the chief executives all agreed to reject bonuses, to freeze their pay for a year in solidarity with the community that was struggling with COVID. So this is similar in a lot of ways to that. And again, this is a strategic objective. Our goal is to demonstrate fiscal responsibility so that the government takes our concerns seriously. In our rates cap presentation, consultation with to central government, we talked about how water and roads costs weren't under our control, that increased by 27% from 2021 to 23, that we couldn't control that. In that same period, executive pay in CCHL increased by 22%, and that's a cost we can control. So it reduces our credibility in that conversation if we're not controlling the costs that we can control. Those the big four in CCHL, as we talk about them, the port, the airport, Orion, and Enable, all those chief executives are currently on over $850,000 a year. Now, this amendment isn't asking for them to be on a penny less than they are currently paid. It's just suggesting let's look into pausing those pay increases for a year to align with our objectives. So to me, it just makes a lot of sense given the environment we're in. I hope it's not considered controversial, because I really urge everyone to support it. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to debate it? Yanni, and then Victoria.
Yeah, thank you. So I do support this amendment, and I appreciate that there are things that we need to be mindful of in terms of employment law and contractual obligations. And I think a freeze is a good start, but I still come back to, I think over time what we should be saying to CCHL is you need to reduce senior executive remuneration. It is, as has been said, I mean, if you look at the current CE remuneration packages, there's a number that getting up into 937,000, 881,000, 880,000, 862,000, and city care has been divided into two. So combined, the city care, the old city care, if you just had one, would be over $1 million. So I think we need to start taking steps to recognise that when people at the bottom are getting offered 2% and people at the top are getting offered 8.4, 14.6, 4.5, 8.8, 5%, 8.2%, 5.3%, that there's actually something wrong with structurally with how this is being done in terms of how the workers at the bottom are getting offered the lowest increases and the people at the top are getting the highest. It's just wrong, and we need to address it. And we have for a number of years now asked CCHL to take action around restraint, and the only thing I can see is that instead of showing restraint, what we see, except for the COVID time period, we have seen the salaries of senior executive remuneration continue to climb. So I'd like us to do more, but I'm very supportive of what's been put in here today. I just think there's a moral obligation to have a fair and equitable remuneration across our council companies. And at the moment, it doesn't feel like that's the case.
Oh, thank you, Councillor MacDonald. My concern is that Councillor Hurst-Jardine's amendment is governance overreach, and we have all been warned previously by staff about actions such as this. And so my plea to my colleagues today is please remember that we are shareholders, and we made a decision as an organisation many years ago to be a shareholder, and in making that decision we entrusted our suite of companies to self-govern and to self-manage. And our various companies, they each have their own boards of highly competent directors who, need I remind you, that we appoint. And they have executive management and leadership teams who perform strongly in really challenging environments. And dare I suggest that they are significantly more appropriate and qualified and experienced to run their companies than we are. I mean, we only have to look at the performance of our airport coming out of COVID to recognise the quality and the competence and the experience of the people that are running our companies. This amendment is walking a very dangerous line, and as a lawyer, as a legal and my professional and legal risk radar is ringing really loudly, and I just cannot support that amendment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, we are and do represent the shareholders, as in the people of Christchurch. I do think it is appropriate that we send a reminder to our subsidiaries that we are concerned about the climbing or the increases in executive pay. I don't have a problem with it as long as we have performance, but I do think it's appropriate that we do send a message and a reminder that we do represent the people of Christchurch, both in health and safety for the welfare of all the workers, but also the returns that we require to run the city. So it is a balance, but I don't see a problem with sending a reminder just to say we are conscious of the increases and we are concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and I concur with Nathaniel's debated points that, you know, we're asking CCHL to align with our strategic objectives in our council, and that's on behalf of our people. This is a letter of expectation which most companies probably don't really receive. So we're telling them what we expect. It's not an order, and it's not to be disrespectful to say we don't think you're running your company properly, because on the contrary, I agree with Councillor Henstock that they are doing an incredible job. And I don't see any harm in putting this out there, that this is what we expect, we would love to see, and I think it's what the people of Christchurch would really love to see as well. So I'll be supporting this today.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to exercise like right of reply.
I'd
Under 17.
I'd like to go first, then you
Oh,
can.
that's right. Sorry, I thought we were done.
No, that's okay. No, I was looking at Mark. I thought he might have had his hand up, so that's all good. Yeah, look, I won't support this today because I think the letter already covers. Oh, and Jake can go too. The letter already covers it as well. You know, I kind of look back and go, and not singling out the council, I'm thinking more of the organisations. When we don't have the right CEOs, things go horribly wrong. And we've seen that. We have lived experience within our own family of that, and the costs that come from that are huge. We already asked for this, and I just think, you know, we need to choose sort of what side of the fence we sit on. We're either going to sit as directors of the company, and we've already made changes at the company. Did in my time when I was at CCHL, removed the bonuses, removed a lot of that stuff, and you know, now they're literally into salaries. And you know, I guess there is always a risk, and I know it is easy to target those people because their salaries are public, and it, you know, and no one, you know, it's just that I think it's the, you know, there will always be people that find it easy to target those people, but in the end, if they're not working for us, they'll be working somewhere else, getting paid the same. So what you do run the risk sometimes of good people being poached. You know, we've seen over $450 million uplift across our companies in the last year. That's not just the dividend, that's the value. And you know, like I say, it's not all attributable to the chief executives, but they lead the organisations. They're tasked with it on behalf of their boards. And you know, equally, when things go horribly wrong, they're the ones we point at. So I just think we be mindful of that. I completely get the intent, you know, I completely do. But I think we already cover it in what we do, and we have seen changes over time that do that. And as for the directors, you know, again, we do put in. I mean, you know, we have to decide whether we want to hold these companies and own these companies or not. If we don't want to hold them, that's fine. Then we wouldn't have directors that we need to have that discussion about. or we make it one big company that sits within CCHL and watch that go to custard. But you know, in the end, there's a public service discount that sits within these as well. You know, these directors, I think, you know, largely are very good at what they do. I think you're always going to have people around boards that probably don't contribute as much as they should. It'd be no different around a council table, for example. But in the end, that's diversity. So, you know, I just think we have to be really careful that we don't look to vilify people doing work in our city when we have seen a $450 million uplift in the value of the companies in this last year alone. And again, I'll just remind you, when things go wrong with chief executives, they go horribly wrong.
Yeah, look, I think turning the temperature down on this one a little, I don't think that it's actually a huge or you know, over the top step. You know, I take issue with Victoria's point around governance feeling or governance butting out of these, because actually as shareholders it's actually quite a prudent thing to do to put an expectation that people are restrained with costs, particularly heading into a rate cap environment. It's if it happens in the private sector as well, with privately held companies putting constraints on their holdings to actually act in a constrained way. It's a responsible thing that any owner does, because what can happen in a public entity is people go, oh well, I'm owned by a public entity, costs need not matter, and the budget is unlimited. And we're saying actually in a constrained environment that we are soon to come into, that's not the case, and we're going to have to cut our cloth, and you need to do so as well.
Yeah, just a couple of little things. So I understand the concerns Victoria Councillor Henstock raised around legal risk. Been advised by staff that there was a very low, I don't know if it was low or very low, I think it was somewhere between those two, risk. So I hope that, you know, our staff legal advice is, you know, puts that to rest. And then if Councillor McDonald detects any vilification in these in this amendment, I'm very happy to remove it. But personally, there's no intention for it to be vilifying.
You're going to remove the amendment?
No. I'm saying if you detect any vilification going on in this amendment.
That is the amendment. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So you think it is one large vilification?
I won't debate you.
Understood. Yeah, I really no intention to criticise the executives. Just about us all, you know, moving in the same direction with our objectives. Thank you.
Cool. We're good. Okay. So let's get the vote. What's it called? Votendo up. So we'll do Nathaniel's amendment first.
Yep, we're ready to start.
Ready to start, and then we'll do the substantive after that. So the voting has opened. Voting's closed.
And we'll put that up on the screen in a second.
Approved. So who's not here?
Aaron's not.
Aaron and Andre and Mel's conflicted. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so that's carried. So let's go to the substantive. Is he? Just so is he? He's again. He's away. Yeah. Does anyone going to vote against the substantive? If not, we'll just put it. Okay. So all in favour of the substantive? Aye. Against? That's carried. Great. Thank you very much, Linda. Appreciate it. So let's go now to Linda.